This is the Effing One Podcast, Australia's only Formula One podcast with Adam and Luke.
G'day and welcome to the Effing One Podcast. It's Australia's only dedicated Formula One podcast recorded on the Gold Coast in Runaway Bay in a random parking lot in a Hyundai i30. That's right, that's how unique this podcast is. The podcast that punches well above its weight and also has weight to lose. Now, we have one of our great initiatives of this podcast is the Handjobs for the Homeless. It's our charity, and if you want to help out some down on their luck individuals, go down to a local homeless shelter, give them some hand relief. I think it's very important that we all do our part in today's day and age where a lot of people struggling, homeless, jobless, sense of humorless. Go down, wrap your hand around that shaft, close your eyes, and think of a happy place as you bring someone ultimate happiness just for free, just off the good of your own soul. And we can't guarantee you'll go to heaven, but I do believe that Nelson Piquet has been doing a very solid job down at his local homeless shelter. But he still is throwing out the racial slurs left, right and centre. Well, the Silverstone Grand Prix, what a humdinger that was. That was quite an incredible race. Everything that went on, it was chaotic. It was crazy. No one died, thankfully. The start of the race was George Russell blocking off Pierre Gasly, made contact. So Latifi made a phenomenal start, and I don't know if that was Nicholas Latifi, but I have a little bit to say on that later. Nicholas Latifi qualified in the top 10 and then made a fantastic start and took off in between George Russell and Zhou Guanyu. A fantastic move, straight out of the gate, boom, gone. The gap was there. Pierre Gasly went to follow Latifi, thinking, oh, wait a minute, I'll just follow Latifi. That's a great idea. And George closed the door. Gasly backed out of it, but it was too late. The move was made on George. George spun, turned into Zhou Guanyu. Guanyu Zhou did something incredible. Now, he managed to flip straight away. Wheel-to-wheel contact, boom, over, spun, rotates around, and heads barreling upside down, mind you, towards the fence, through the gravel trap, completely got rid of his roll hoop. He's like, you know what? We need to make this Alfa Romeo a little bit more slipstream. Let's just take the roll hoop off. Let's just barrel into turn one and see how we go. I like the optimism. Upside down, maybe a little bit crazy. He didn't take flight more than that, except he went through the gravel, the car dug in. He managed to flip and rotate like a beautiful, gymnast. There's a lot of good gymnasts that come out of China. And they landed every single time, and so did Guanyu Zhou. There was a slight gap between the fence, which was the catch fencing, which is to, help photographers, marshals that are behind that fence, and then you've got grandstand behind that. He managed to place it in between the fence of the circuit, the catch fencing, and the fence of why am I talking like an absolute spasmo? And it's the tyre wall. He managed to plop it vertically, so on his side, vertically, not laying flat, not upside, laid it, bang, right there. A beautiful manoeuvre. He got 10s from all the judges. Zhou Guanyu managed to be extracted after they moved a bunch of things to get him out of there. George Russell did prance out of his car. I don't know if anyone saw it. He was on his toes, prancing forward just to see if he could help. When I first saw images coming through on the socials, whether it's Twitter or TikTok or Instagram, I thought maybe Zhou had actually gone under the barrier because he was upside down. Maybe he just sort of dug under it. I think it happened to Carlos Sainz in, it was a street race. Maybe it was Baku. I think it might have been Baku. Might have been Russia, not sure. But he managed to go under. And it might have been Gasly. I'm pretty sure it was a Toro Rosso, and I'm pretty sure it was Carlos Sainz. Crashed and went under the tyre wall. The tyre wall was on top of him. And then I thought Zhou had gone under, and then George Russell was standing on top. I'm like, that's not fucking doing anything. He's just not helping at all. And then I saw the car was actually on its side, blocked and wedged in there. Thankfully, Zhou was okay. Alexander Albon saw the crash happening, and he backed off. Sebastian Vettel went into the back of him, spun him into the wall, the pit lane wall, which he had a bit of an impact. Then he got hit by 2 cars later on. Unfortunate for those drivers. George tried to get back in the car, but the car was already on the back of a truck. It looks like he had some rear suspension damage by the way that his front right tyre was in the air, so I'm guessing his day was done anyway, but it was a red flag. They could have fixed it just like they did with Tsunoda and with Esteban Ocon. They fixed their cars, the damage that they had caused. So 3 cars out, turn 1, lap 1. And I think there was a bit of controversy. People were like, oh, how can they, Max got a good jump on Sainz. Maybe they should just... But the lap hadn't finished when they went. So red flag, it goes back into your grid positions, which is, the fair and equitable way to do it. Max will get his chance to overtake Carlos Sainz a little bit later. But he had to do it again. The race restarted, it went off and running. A great event, heaps of overtaking, and it has proven that these cars can follow closely through these corners. There was less bouncing. I think there's technical directives bringing them in, but some teams are they're against it because they're like, well, you know what, we've gotten on top of this. You're changing this rule based on one team. So we'll see in the upcoming races to see, what exactly happens. I did see Lewis Hamilton without his nose ring in, so he's taken that out. He said he couldn't take it out, but miraculously he has. I think everyone should be racing with rainbow shit everywhere, just as they have been. Pierce it up, go nuts, go against the establishment of these conglomerate of fuckwits that we call the FIA, who are a bunch of babysitters who are trying to ruin the sport. But you know what they have been doing? Formula One and the FIA have been listening to this podcast. How do I know? Well, I think it's pretty bloody obvious. We have a segment called Making Formula One Great Again. It's the F1 podcast segment. Now, we aim to bring in ideas that is going to make Formula One great again. We said, let's bring back the ground force, the cars, so they're sucked down to the ground. And then what happened? Boom, this year's regulations, which was technically last year's regulations, the ground effects cars come into play. Less, because we want... Basically, you can't follow a car if they're pushing a whole bunch of air with the downforce they get from their wings. So if you get downforce from, let's say, ground effects and from the underneath of the car, you won't be so hamstrung behind a car that you're trying to follow. And these regulations, this change of car, have proven that there is better overtaking, better close racing, and it was pretty obvious to see how great the racing was because of these cars and how they managed to go around the track, following each other quite closely, especially through Magus Beckett. There was people overtaking going into Magus Beckett, and it wasn't a wet race. I think it was Tsunoda or Gasly. One of the AlphaTauri boys made a move on a languishing Nicholas Latifi, which I think that's just the word that we could just do to describe him. But he got into Q3. He did a decent race, even though a lot of people tried not to finish the race. But full props to Latifi pulling his finger out. Now, I did see Terry this weekend, and I don't know if anyone has listened to this shit show before, but Terry is well, he's not ours, but I recognised him. He's kind of like a Dick Dastardly character in the F1 paddock. He came about when Haas couldn't change their tyres properly in Austria, and I was like, you know what? There is a bloke who's going to these teams and ruining their races. He's going in and messing with the pit stops. He's pretending not to put the tyre on properly. He's just, making a whole lot of trouble for all the teams that are out there. Now, he's at it again. He was at McLaren. I saw a clip of McLaren trying to change a wheel. The rear jack broke. So it just completely, it just dishinged and dropped the back of the car. They had to get the manual jack. They lifted the car up. So whoever went and got that jack, maybe he went out of place. Normally have 3 guys per wheel. There's only 2 guys on that left rear wheel. And then one guy went to put the wheel on. And he put it in where we've got that new wheel cover. He's actually trying to put it on the wrong way. A professional at this job, to put a wheel on, to take a wheel off, you're putting the same thing on. Even if that's not his job, he was either to take it off or to put it on initially. And he had the wheel around the wrong way. So the wheel cover was facing inside the car and he's trying to put it on. The rear tyres only have one side of the tyre branded. So the outside of the tyre will have Pirelli on it. The inside will just be black because there's no branding usage for the inside of the rear tyres. Generally, you don't see the inside of the rear tyres with any onboard shots. You do see them from the onboards looking forward, so they will have branding on the inside of the car, on the inside of the tyre, so you can see which colour it is. But the rear tyres, they won't. So he was trying to put the rear on. He was putting it on the wrong way. So Pirelli was facing inwards. The wheel cap was there. He couldn't push it on. And then someone's like, mate, swap it over. So he flipped it. That's Terry. So if you see this bloke around, tell the authorities, handcuff him, and just make sure that he doesn't get around to any other teams. Because he has been at the Williams teams this week as well. So not only did he go ahead and fuck up some pit stop practice that they did where they dropped Norris's car onto his ass. Again, Terry, he was sabotaging that rear jack, and then he went and tried to put the tyre on the wrong way. Fucking idiot, Terry. But he was also at Williams. Now, I don't know if you know, but Nicholas Latifi got into Q3. He qualified in the top 10, everyone. This is Nicholas Latifi. Now, Nicholas is... Surely he's a nice man. He ran over some kind of groundhog or marmot, whatever. He killed it. Broad daylight, murdered it. He said it was in the braking area, couldn't get around it. But Nicholas Latifi, the man who, is probably a few chromosomes short of a human being, he qualified in the top 10. And I have a theory that Terry jumped into Nicholas Latifi's overalls, chucked the helmet on and drove, qualifying and the race while Nicholas Latifi was bound and gagged in the toilet. That is the only explanation that I see fit. Maybe when he came into the pits, they got Latifi back in the car because Latifi went backwards. You never know. But I think maybe Terry's neck was getting a little bit sore. He hasn't driven a Formula 1 car for a long time. So that's my theory. Nicholas Latifi, Terry Latifi? Maybe. What else happened on the weekend? There's got the one thing that Ferrari can't seem to do is they can't seem to be on the edge of making vital decisions quickly. Now, this is a team that spends a lot of money and a lot of time, and they've made a very fast car. May not be as fast as Red Bulls at the moment, but it's very competitive and it's very close to the Red Bulls. And if you want to fight for a championship, I've said this before on the podcast, I've said this before in previous years, you need some kind of cutthroat, smart, instant decision making if you want to win a race and make the most out of every weekend. Now, they miss pit stop opportunities, and they missed it again with Charles Leclerc. Charles he was given the lead by his teammate because his teammate couldn't get the pace that Leclerc wanted to run, and Leclerc had a 4.5 second lead. Safety car comes out. Leclerc even slows down before going past pit lane entry because he realised, all right, we have a chance. He was a corner and a half away from the area where he would need to pit. And then he even slowed down, going, do we need to pit? Should we pit? Should we pit? Team like, no, stay out. Everyone else behind him pit for softs. I don't know why Norris didn't pit initially and then pitted later. Doesn't make sense. McLaren, you need to fix that shit. But to have Charles leading the race, it was clear a decision that we want to give Carlos Sainz the win. If they pitted them both, they could have double stacked. Everyone could double stack. Even with a 4.5 second lead, it doesn't take 4.5 seconds to change a tyre. And under safety car, everyone goes slower. The gap increases. So it's not 4.5 seconds at true speed, like at racing speed. It's probably 9 or 10 seconds by the time everyone slows down to their delta time while they're under safety car, that they should be going a little bit slower. So they could have got the double stack pit stop, would have made a Ferrari 1-2 at least. But unfortunately, Charles Leclerc, you got to miss out. So Ferrari misses out by not being smart and quick and decisive. Carlos Sainz gets his first ever win in Formula 1, completely deserved. He promptly overtook, upon the restart after the safety car, promptly overtook his teammate and then went off into the distance. And then there was a great battle. And I'll give serious props to Charles Leclerc on used hards, and everyone else had fresh softs. And I'm not talking, used for 3 laps in qualifying fresh softs. It was wet throughout the weekend, a lot of the weekend. So when it came to nailing and having free range of these tyres, they all had fresh reds to put on. They all put the softs on, and Leclerc made it very difficult. And that's how good he is. The tyres are probably over a second a lap slower, but him going around the outside with Lewis Hamilton at Copse, which couldn't happen last year with Max and Hamilton, just shows how good this man is. It wasn't an easy pass for Perez. It wasn't an easy pass for Hamilton. Great dice between them, back and forth. Hamilton overtook both of them, and then Hamilton got overtaken by both of them. It was mayhem. I think Crofty had several orgasms, a heart attack, and a stroke at the same time. I was surprised when they kind of went silent when Leclerc was going around the outside. I think they were anticipating Charles to be put into the wall again. But the good old man, Lewis Hamilton, didn't put him in the wall this time. Didn't put someone in the wall this time like he did last year. So props to Charles Leclerc. He finished 4th. Lewis Hamilton on the podium in 3rd. And Checo Perez, after getting wing damage, which was the same damage that Charles got early on in the race. It was the restart after the red flag. Leclerc loses his front wing end plate. Perez also loses his front wing end plate. Perez ends up pitting, changing tyres and coming out, and then making his way through the field to get up to his 2nd place. Great drive from him. Charles Leclerc lost that wing, didn't lose too much downforce. He said he played with some things on the car, so he changed a bit of the setup to actually handle that. They said it was a 5-point. They obviously have downforce points on the car, and they said it was a 5-point loss. So he did a phenomenal job to drive and to stay in 4th even, with Alonso and Norris behind him. So a good restart, good race. Love a lot of overtaking, guys pushing guys wide. Max Verstappen being an absolute cunt towards Mick Schumacher. But it seems that they're just relaxing the rules. You can run a guy wide. You can cut a corner a bit. No, it'll be noted, but they're not going to do too much. If they see an overall picture and go, you know what, you gained a bit, but you lost eventually. So I think it was fair. The Max, Mick Schumacher was going back under the very last kink in the last corner. If I was Mick, I would have just held it through, and if Max comes across and hits you, it's the last corner. You're about to cross over the start-finish line. He's going to go across sideways. You're going to go across ground straight. So I would have just put my foot in. I know what happened with Vettel a couple races ago in Abu Dhabi, or a race a little bit earlier than that. Kind of maybe got him a bit scared. Was it Baku? I'm not sure. But there was a race where, I think it was Miami, where Vettel got punted by Schumacher basically, and I think he kind of just hesitated. I would have kept the foot down, because Max just can't drive anywhere and just expect everyone to disappear. And I think there's a lot of people who are a little bit fucking stupid on the internet who goes, but he's got position. No, he doesn't. There's a guy right beside him. You can't just go wherever you want. So I think if I was Mick, but congratulations to him, his first points in Formula One. Both Haas drivers get some points, which I gave them a bit of rev up in the previous podcast, and no doubt they're listening and made the right adjustments. Now, Guan Yu Zhou played hide and seek. I don't know if anyone saw. I'm sure we saw plenty of angles. There was a long time, a big delay before they started showing replays. Alexander Albon was taken to hospital under precaution, and just to check him out, Zhou Guan Yu played a bit of hide and seek behind the barriers. They managed to find him anyway, so he didn't win the hide and seek championship, but that is one of the great... I haven't seen a driver really play hide and seek properly since Carlos Sainz did that in Russia. So congratulations to Zhou Guan Yu, hide and seek champion, but they did find him. George Russell was right there to point him out. A bit of a joy kill there, going, oh look, there he is. Fun times. But yeah, Guan Yu Zhou, congratulations on the hide and seek, and great wall resting on a wall. Who would have thought that? We've talked about Terry. Now, ideas to make Formula 1 great again. Listen, there is so many ways to make Formula 1 great again. And since, you think about all the tracks around the world, you think about, we've talked about reverse driving, trying to park, eating the local food while qualifying. What I would like to see is the drivers to have a native animal of the country. Now, it may be difficult to find a native animal in Monaco, because there's not a lot of area in Monaco, let alone a lot of wildlife in Monaco. But local wildlife, and what you do is you shove it down the cockpit and you just kind of put your arms around the animal and drive the animal around. For the animal's safety, they should wear a helmet, but if they don't, let them sign a waiver with their hoof or whatever claw thing that they've got. But get an animal in the cockpit, on the car, somewhere to cling, like something that's in abundance. Let's not take a giant panda and shove it in for the Chinese Grand Prix. That's a little bit silly. But let's put another kind of animal, shove it in a pangolin. Put a pangolin down there. Get it on the front of the car. Who knows? Let's get a little bit of animal love, and just during qualifying, no other time. Not in the race, that's silly. Qualifying, they get pole, bang. It's Max Verstappen and the pangolin who gets pole position for the Chinese Grand Prix. It'll be very interesting, and I would like to see that happen. It may not be an idea that comes through and comes to the fore like the ground effects cars, and they are going to remove tyre warmers, which is something that I've mentioned not only in this podcast just last week, but in weeks before. So I am looking forward to having cars, and they should take it off immediately. As Karun Chandok said, take them off now. Get rid of the tyre warmers. We don't need them in our sport. These guys are good enough. They'll have to get used to driving cars and getting heat into the tyres post pit stop. Change your strategy and see if guys can turn their cars on, get these tyres warmed up in the way that they would. Race rating. I'm giving it a 10 out of 10. Yep, I've said it. 10 out of 10. Perfect race. I think great to watch at home. Sure, it ran a little bit long because of the red flag, and it was a late night. But to have such entertaining driving, quality driving, some shenanigans at the start, no one was hurt. But to have wheel-to-wheel battles back and forth, no one being silly, and the only one who was being silly was still Max Verstappen. He had a damaged car. But if Mick Schumacher, now you've got points, next time, keep your foot in it. If he swerves across you, you're driving a straight line. He's the one being stupid. He's the one that'll get a penalty. He's the one that'll get in trouble. Just because he's Max Verstappen, he's only got one world championship and he's a petulant little twat. So keep your foot in it and don't let him get away with it. Max Verstappen, a solid drive from him. He had damage. He overtook Carlos Sainz when Carlos Sainz ran wide. I think it was around lap 10-ish when he got the lead, and then a few corners later he ran over a piece of carbon fibre that was sitting on the racetrack, and he said he couldn't go left, he couldn't go right, so he kind of wanted to hit it straight on. It went under the car and damaged the rear left, and that took a lot of downforce and struggled with his car. As we talked about Perez before, he got second place after changing his front wing early on after contact at I think it was turn 3. Yeah, turn 3. Leclerc, listen, if they'd pitted him, it would have been a Ferrari 1-2 at least. Ferraris were quick on the restart, and the fresh softs would have been nice for Leclerc. Sainz did a great job this weekend. He got his first race win, got his first pole position, and now he is a Formula 1 race winner. Congratulations. Minifon Sainz. Lewis Hamilton, strong result for him as well, out-qualifying his teammate, outraced him into P3 on the podium. He's 2 podiums in a row for him. George Russell, boy George, solid job until it all came crashing down. He was having a good weekend until qualifying. He kind of didn't get the pace that he needed to in quali. It's 2 races he hasn't delivered in qualifying, and then when it came to the race, as we know, the contact with Pierre Gasly turned him into Zhou. Zhou went upside down into the wall, and then Russell tried to complain. He's like, I just want to get back in the car. The car wouldn't start. I think, as we saw, he had some other issues going on, but once the car is on a flatbed truck and it goes back, you kind of need to do it unassisted. So if he had stayed in his car, he's like, I was just trying to help, but once your car is driven back to the pit lane on the back of a flatbed, you ain't going to restart that race, champ. Know the rules, and I think we're all fully aware of that. Surprised that he didn't. Chuck Norris, good driver in front of his home crowd. Unfortunately lost a place to Alonso in the pits. Don't know why McLaren didn't pit immediately. But the Fons, he's always there. He's always stalking. Daniel Ricciardo, another unfortunate weekend for the Aussie. In front of his the team's home crowd. The McLaren is a UK-based team, and it was unfortunate that he couldn't really produce the goods that Lando Norris can, but I think only Lando can do what Lando does in that car. I don't think Daniel can do much else other than be in the young boy's shadow, and it's very hard for me to say that as I wear my Daniel Ricciardo jumper in the Hyundai i30 in the parking lot of Runaway Bay. Poor Daniel. He's a solid driver, good bloke, but if he ever wants a chance to be in a championship-winning car again, he's not going to do it with this kind of performance. Pierre Gasman Gasly, as said, he was the cork in the bottle that kind of blew all that shit show. He went for their gap and unfortunately didn't pay off for him. Tsunoda, the two teammates crashed into each other. I think Tsunoda took a dive. Gasly gave him room. Tsunoda locked his rears and then spun and hit Gasly, took them both out. Gasly had to retire from the race he got the meatballs flag, which is a black flag with an orange meatball in the middle, and that means you have a problem on your car that needs to be fixed. It's a safety issue, and they decided to retire the car. Apparently there's a bunch of damage on his rear wing. Tsunoda took the blame, pretty much it was all on you, champ. And I hear the team has given him some counsellors to kind of help him out with his anger issues. Yeah, he's we don't call him Sweary Sonoda for no reason. Sebastian Vettel, the fingerboy Vettel, did a great job as usual. Typical, got into the points again. Sebastian Stroll finished 11th, waste of time. Bottas, Zhou didn't finish the race. I don't really know what else to say about those blokes. It's unfortunate for them. Zhou out-qualified Bottas again. But I'm really warming to Zhou. The Great Wall has done he's doing good work, and I think there is more to come from him as this season progresses, because Zhou's up there. He's there and thereabouts. He qualified strongly. He raced well in other races, and just qualified in 9th. Bottas was down in 12th in qualifying. And Bottas didn't see the checkered flag, neither did Zhou. So unfortunate for the Alfa Romeo, but I do see more good results coming from Zhou himself. And of course, Valtteri Bottas, there will be more coming from him. Of course. Magnussen, Schumacher gets his first points. Magnussen gets a point as well. The Fernando Alonso... up in 5th place, doing a solid job. There's some good pace coming out of that Alpine, and also some good pit stops as well. Ocon, champ. You didn't quite make the cut, didn't quite get classified in that race. Unfortunate for the French stick. He was the first of the non-classifiers. He was in 15th. You don't worry, you get points to your 3rd championship. It's not all a big loss there. Alexander Albon and the Williams of Nicholas Latifi. As we know, Albon crashed into the wall head first when he got spun around. Just went back into the wall and then back into a couple other blokes who hit him on the left, hit him on the right. He got a little bit shaken up. A bit of a... You could call him James Bond, shaken not stirred. He should be fine for this weekend, let's hope so. Nicholas Latifi, as I said, Terry stepped in, did a good job. And the awards... We give out awards in this podcast. It's the awards that you probably don't anticipate. F1 has their awards: driver of the day, fastest lap, fastest pit stop, blah, blah, blah. Well, we've got a different slant. We've got the Green Award. Now, the Green Award is for lowering your carbon footprint. This is people who retired early on in the race. But this one goes to a man who not only... He didn't retire from the race at that point. He retired other people with that contact. So congratulations, Pierre Gasly. Now, if Pierre didn't go for that gap, none of that would happen. And you go for the gap. Unfortunately, it got closed off by George. Bing, bang, boom. Couple blokes out. Saving the environment. That's what Pierre Gasly's thinking. He goes, you know what? If I go through there, I'm thinking about saving fuel in Zhou's car. I'm thinking about saving fuel in Russell's car. And then when other people see this crash in front of them, we're going to be saving more fuel with Albon. It's a beautiful moment. And, we had dickheads on the track, had taken a seat. Well, see, we save fuel. We're green. We're forward-thinking. Thank Pierre Gasly, and he gets the Green Award for this weekend. The Likkonen Sended Award for the best overtaking manoeuvre, I'm giving it to Charles Leclerc. I'm giving it because he was on used hards around the outside. I don't know if it was Stowe or Copse. I forget, but I think it was Copse. Him and Lewis going side by side. 2 cars can go around that corner. It did happen. Charles Leclerc made it stick before going to Maggotts Beckett's complex. So Charles Leclerc, great. There was a lot of great overtaking manoeuvres. Don't get me wrong. I could have given 5 or 6 Likkonen Sended Awards, but I'm giving it to that one because around the outside of that corner and making it stick. Mwah. Beautiful, bellissimo. The Pastor Maldonado Award for dangerous driving, we're giving it to George Russell. Now, the Brit himself in his home Grand Prix cuts off Gasly, causes the accident, and it is him causing it. If he doesn't jerk left while Gasly was there, that wouldn't happen. Gasly's going to go for that gap because it's been left there. It was closed off a little bit too late, unfortunate, but that's what ended his races. or ended his race, Zhou's race, and then caused a calamitous with everyone reacting to that. So we'll see. Yuji Ide Award. This is for wasting everyone's time. Now, this is anyone. This is not just going to one driver. This is going to 10 drivers. Producer Pete, has been whittling away at so many awards this week because there is 10 Yuji Ide Awards for wasting everyone's time. Now, the list of people getting this Yuji Ide Award, just let me tell you this list. Now, this 10 drivers are Stroll, Mick Schumacher, Sebastian Vettel, Kevin Magnussen, Alexander Albon, Esteban Ocon, Daniel Ricciardo, Swery Tsunoda, Valtteri Bottas, and Pierre Gasly. You all get a Yuji Ide Award. You might be thinking, why, Luke? Why would these 10 drivers get the Yuji Ide Award? Because they all got out-qualified by Nicholas fucking Latifi. 10 of them! All out-qualified by Latifi! Latifi. 10 of them. You're wasting everyone. Daniel Ricciardo got out-qualified by Nicholas Latifi in a Williams. Everyone in the bottom 10 got out-qualified by Nicholas Latifi. No one would have predicted that. I sure didn't. Now, there's the next award is the Making Formula 1 Great Again. It's the Effing One Podcast Award. We're giving it to Silverstone for a rip-roaring race. The perfect race. A 10 out of 10. Great scenes. Great track. Mixed weather on Saturday. Oh, I came several times over this weekend because of it. And now the next award. Now we need some audio for this one. I'll just cut to this. That's right, it's the Your Shit award. Now, there's a lot of shit drivers out there, but the Your Shit award is going to those virtue signalling, time-wasting twats that walked onto the track on lap 1. Yep. I didn't want to give them too much airtime because they don't really deserve it, and neither did Formula 1. But there was a bunch, I think it was 3 or 4 people decided to jump the fence and sit on the straight. Now, if there was another lap of the race, let's just say Zhou didn't crash, Albon didn't crash, the whole shit didn't start, and these guys went out and sat out. Drivers who are battling wheel to wheel behind one another. Now, we saw this when the crazy-ass Priest, way back when, did it in the early 2000s, I think it was, or the mid-2000s. When he decided to run down the straight holding a sign like a fucking madman. David Coulthard nearly hit him, Mark Webber nearly hit him, and just all downright stupid people get onto the track. Now, they went out there and sat down to protest, to go, we want people to think about the global warming and climate change and all of this stuff. Formula 1 has the most efficient combustion engines that have ever been made. This not only reduces the carbon footprint, but they're also bringing in new fuels, new renewable fuels that you can make and you don't have to drill for it. But no, we want to protest the government, so we're just going to go sit on the pavement. And that's just really, all it's going to do is they're going to red flag the race, drag your ass off the fucking track, and you are very lucky to leave the track with your fucking life. If you are that dumb to walk onto a Formula 1 track where cars around that time are going 160 to 180 miles an hour, which is in the high 200s for those of you who speak normal, a car hitting you at that time, not only are you then putting your life at risk for the sake of fucking nothing, which I'll explain in a second why it is fucking nothing. But also you could traumatize kids, families, people at home, the drivers, teams, everyone who's watching. For your little time in the sun, I hope you get thrown in jail. I hope there is a large man called Bubba who will run a train on you over and over and over until you will never, ever think about the stupidity that you do when you walk onto a live Formula One track because you have something to say. It baffles me, the stupidity of people thinking that, oh yeah, this is going to make a change. You've just disrupted. There was fucking people bombing near a Formula One track. You think that fucking stopped it? Are you that dumb? Do you think I'm going to sit here and people are going to fucking listen? No, they're going to boo you. You're going to get fined, and I hope you get thrown in jail. I really do, for just being the dick that you are. You didn't save a tree, you didn't save the fucking planet, and no one gives a flying fuck. Now, there's... to you little virtue signalers who think shit's all going to hit the fan and everything's about to be over. There was one twat who commented on their group's Twitter who goes, we've been fighting for this climate crisis for 50 years. Climate crisis for 50... anything that takes 50 fucking years isn't a crisis. Just think about that. They've been telling you it's been warming for 50 fucking years. Notice they're not calling it global warming anymore. They're calling it climate change. It's a climate crisis. They're not saying global warming anymore because it's not fucking hot anymore. It's cold. Every kind of thing they keep throwing out there, they keep changing the fucking narrative. You're sitting on a track for no fucking purpose because you're dumb sheep that just follow everything. For fuck's sake, just read about it, look into it, think with a different mind instead of just following some cute bird who's going, I think climate change is real. Maybe just ask some questions. Do your own independent research. Our winter here in Australia is the coldest it's ever been. The summer I just lived in is one of the cooler ones. We're breaking records for coolest max temps where I live. The ocean's not rising. I'm not swimming. Notice how all those millionaires who are saying that the world is warming, polar ice caps are melting, which they do every year, the water levels are going to rise so much that it's going to decimate coastal communities. And you see these people who own coastal properties, who paid millions for coastal properties. Get off the fucking racetrack. Just have some decent independent thought instead of just jumping on a fucking bandwagon and thinking, I'm doing good, because you're not. You've done your cause no good. The only people are clapping you are the people that were clapping you when you bought your tickets to the British Grand Prix. It was a sellout. You could have given it to people who wanted to fucking be there. You've disturbed no one. And for the people who are saying, oh, there was a guy in danger of his life just around the corner, you should think about Zhou Guanyu. No, don't. No, it's got nothing to do with them. Don't try and put two and two together. Just fucking calm your farm. Let's be proper people. Let's be smart. Fastest lap of the... oh, now I'm off my soapbox. Fast lap is Hamilton Weatherwell in 1 minute 30.510. Fastest pit stop was Alpinus with a 2.43 second pit stop. And the driver of the day was Sergio Perez from his broken front wing to the front to second place. Congratulations, Sergio. Voted by all you people who went to Formula1.com and voted. Now, the Third Championship, Junior Schumacher out in the lead on negative 92 points. Then we have Nicholas Latifi on negative 81. The third place is Great Wall Guan Yu Zhou on negative 78. A good bit of points for him. TIE Fighter's gone up there on -70. He has jumped up quite a bit. Now, I didn't go by the classification that Formula One put out for those particular points, because I think Zhou went further than Russell, upside down, but I think he went further than him. And so I put it as, instead of Albon, Zhou, Russell, I put it as Albon, Russell, Zhou, because I think Zhou went further into the barrier than Russell did. So that's why I'm giving him. I'm like, you travelled probably another 15 metres more than Russell, so you get less points in your third championship. Congratulations, great wall. The tips of the weekend are Luke on 12, Cliff 12, T 10, Pete 10, Jim 13, Pat 10. Tough weekend. I think everyone's... there's a couple of people that forgot to put in their race predictions, but I'll take your quality tips. I'll move it over to your race tips and keep it very, very similar. But yeah, the lowest points was 10 anyway. 10, 10. It was a tough weekend with that crash, but also just a change up. Perez ahead of Max, Sainz ahead of Leclerc, Lewis Hamilton finding form. Who thought a 7-time world champion is beating George Russell? But he is. The next race, let's go straight on to Austria, the A1 ring, the Red Bull ring it's called now. Now, it was first race there in 1970 in the Ostrich ring. I think there was an ostrich around there somewhere. The circuit is designed like a sex toy. There's 71 laps around this track. It's a 4.318 kilometre track length. There is 3 DRS zones. Ooh, spicy. Down into turn 1, up to turn 3, and down to turn 4. So plenty of DRS zones. The race distance is 306.452 kilometres. We are looking at the C2, the C3, C4, C5, so the 3 softest tyres of the Pirelli's 5 compounds they have. The minimum starting pressures, this is why everyone tunes into this Formula 1 podcast. It's at 24.0 PSI on the front and 20.0 on the rear PSI. It is subject to change after free practice 2 if everyone agrees to it. The front camber limit is 3.25 negative degrees and 1.75 negative degrees on the rear. Yeah, there you go. You think you're not going to learn anything in this podcast? You just did right then. The weather looks like it could be moist on Friday. Remember, this is a sprint race, so they're going to have free practice 1 and qualifying. Then Saturday we'll have free practice 2 and the sprint race. And then Sunday we will have the normal race. So they're expecting temperatures 21 on Friday, 24 on Saturday, and 22 on Sunday. Chance of rain, 20%, 20%, 20%. Less than 20% maybe Saturday, but there could be some rain and wind gusts up to 45 kilometres on Friday. The wind gust to 30 on Saturday. So there could be a pretty gusty weekend for the drivers. Gusts of wind can really turn the car around very, very quickly if they get a crosswind. Headwinds, easier for braking. Tailwinds, great for top speed if they're going that way. But a crosswind can really spin the car around quite easily. The previous pole winner last year was Max Verstappen with a 1 minute 3.720. I think Norris was second in that qualifying as well. The podium was Verstappen, Bottas and Norris. And the race times for the Austrian Grand Prix, if you are watching in Auckland, New Zealand, it's 1 a.m. on a Monday morning. If you are in Sydney or Brisbane or Nerang, you are watching this at 11 p.m. Sunday night. If you are in Adelaide, Radelaide as they call it down there, you are watching the Grand Prix at 10:30 at night. And in Perth, the western side of Australia, you are at 9 p.m. Next up, Kathmandu, if you are preparing to climb Mount Everest or Lhotse or something around that area there, you are watching this at 6:45. So watch it, get a good night's sleep, get up and go summit some mountains. And then we have Abu Dhabi, Dubai. You are watching this at 5 p.m. Then Helsinki in Finland. You're going to watch this at 4 as well. Stockholm, Sweden, 3 p.m, 2 o'clock in London. If you're in Sao Paulo, in Brazil, if you're going to watch it there, you're at 10 a.m. Sunday morning. And then we have New York. You're at 9 a.m. Los Angeles, 6 a.m. And the poor old Hawaiians watching it at 3 a.m. again. You've got a lot of 3 a.m. I think there's the Japanese Grand Prix is nice. Is at 7 p.m. And then you've got Mexico City. That's decent. That's at 10 a.m. But man, you are suffering with those 3 a.m. starts. If you love Formula One in Hawaii, please reach out. I might send you a fucking hat. I don't care. Do it. Call up. Let me know. Get me on the Instagram, on Twitter. Go, hey, I'm in Hawaii. This is my island home. Send me a photo of that and I will send you a hat because I'm feeling very generous. And you have to get up at 3 a.m. for most times, which I know is a shit time because I'm not far away from it. And it's always a great race at the Red Bull Ring. Heaps of overtaking opportunities. The side-by-side action should be interesting. The middle sector, to see if anyone can follow a little bit closer than they have the previous years. But long runs up to turn 2. Or sorry, turn 2 is kind of a kink that goes up to turn 3 up the hill. It should be interesting. I'm looking forward to this Austrian Grand Prix. And we do have a Grand Prix next weekend in France. Don't forget, sprint race, Saturday night, not qualifying. Qualifying is tonight, Friday night. Enjoy the Austrian Grand Prix. Have some schnitzel. Get in your lederhosen. Go yodeling. And maybe have some kind of pastry dish. Maybe some Vienna. Fair? Very nice. Okay. Fantaschen. Bye. Haha.